This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football is back, and the best bet you can make is downloading the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It doesn't matter if you're new to gambling or an old pro, FanDuel has something for everyone. And as an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you know your bets are safe. There's also never been a better time to use FanDuel, because right now, you'll get up to $1,000 back if your first bet doesn't win. You can even turn a small wager into a big payday with a same-game parlay bet. Just sign up with the promo code SPOTIFY to place your first bet risk-free on FanDuel Sportsbook. Download FanDuel today. 21 plus and present in Virginia. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome to a new edition of the Cards Cast. I'm Cardinal Authority senior writer Michael McCammon here with publisher Jody Demling. A lot to talk about, and not really some pleasantries to start things off with. A little recap of what happened to the Louisville football team and their opener down at the Chick-fil-A kickoff in Atlanta. You know the story. Ole Miss pretty much dominated from the start, 43-24. The Cardinals, the losers in their opener. Jody, it wasn't really a pretty game, obviously, and it started out, the way Ole Miss came out immediately offensively, and you knew they were going to. I mean, they're one of the top offensives in the country, returning so many weapons from last year. So you knew they were going to come out, but the ease that they did it from the start was really troubling. And obviously the offensive, especially in the first half, the offensive struggles to get things going was not the look that you want to start year 3 of the Scott Satterfield era.
No, not at all, and it was ugly. Just
that's a good word for it.
Ugly. No two ways about it. But look, before, and I do want to. I mean, towards the end of our talk here, I do want to talk about a couple of positives, because after watching the film over again and looking at the grades and how guys graded out, there are a couple of really, really good positives that came out of this game. But the thing that disappointed maybe me the most, Michael, was, and I'm not saying they weren't fired up, they weren't ready. Look, I saw them. They were laser focused. They were ready to go. But for some reason, and I don't know if it was that first play that kind of knocked them back on their heels a little bit, the defense kind of played tentative or timid early in the game. And that, I don't know, that's just something that I did not expect. I really did not expect that to happen at all. And to me, that's the biggest disappointment to me. Yes, there's missed tackles, there's missed blocks, there's an interception, a terrible fumble, a missed block that should have been a touchdown on a throwback that should never happen. There's a lot of things that went wrong, but to me, the worst thing that went wrong was early in that game being timid and then kind of getting back on their heels once that happened. And it was hard to recover from that. Now, I will say this. Look, Ole Miss, Matt Corral, he's not like standing down on the field next to him, by him. He's not the biggest dude in the world, but he's pretty good. He's really, really, really talented. And I think Ole Miss is probably a little bit better than I thought they were. I think I picked 34-28 or 31-27, something like that. I don't know. We were close. The two of us were close picks. After this and going back, they were probably, the 7-10 was probably right, anywhere between 7 and 10. It shouldn't have been what it was, because I thought Louisville played poorly in the first half, but Ole Miss was better than what I thought they were, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. I thought it was obviously quite smart of Ole Miss, as one of the worst defenses in the country last year, to come out with basically and essentially a new look. I mean, they pretty much rebuilt their defense, and instead of being a blitz happy defense that gets burned, they're basically forcing you to try to beat 8 guys dropping back into coverage, and that's difficult to do. And obviously they made some adjustments at halftime. I would have liked to have seen some more in-game adjustments against that. And maybe that's something we'll see as we progress. But going into the season, Jody, we've talked about it extensively on the podcast, on the message boards, and everywhere else. The concern about wide receivers, obviously, when you lose two guys to the NFL, those are high production guys, and Louisville's got a depth chart of wide receivers, but none of them, Braden Smith the most, and even he wasn't a feature guy last year, really didn't have experience being the guy at wide receiver. And you could really see that they struggled, and I think that you could really tell all the way through the game, even though you had some guys start to step up. Josh Johnson had really making a nice outing, a career outing for him. But even so, all the way to the end of the game, you could tell that they were still struggling to find a wide receiver to step up. Marshawn Ford did his thing, but he can't do it all. So that's going to remain a concern. That's something that obviously they need to answer pretty quickly. And I did expect a little more out of the defense. I was excited about the secondary, and I'm not giving up on any of these guys. I think as the season progresses, obviously experience and all that, should help you improve as the season progresses. But in the first game, I expect to see more out of the secondary. Expect to see more really from each position, defensively. So they all showed some good things, and kind of like you were talking about there. I put on the message board yesterday that this game kind of resembled what we saw a lot of last year. Lost a turnover margin again. That's the 14th time in 25 games during the Satterfield era that they've lost a turnover margin. They're now 2-12 in those games, which obviously if you're losing the turnover margin, it makes it a lot harder, to win ball games, so, and then you talk about the missed blocks, and other things where if they would have done their fundamental job of what they're supposed to do, a block, for Cunningham when he gets that pass back, or Hassan Hall hanging onto that ball. If they do, the fundamentals, it's a different ball game in the first half. But again, that was the trend for Louisville last year, and unfortunately, through game 1 of 2021, it's kind of the same.
Yeah, and look, and I've learned. I've been around a lot of coaches. Well, first of all, this is probably not going to be some people might not agree with me. I was standing there. I felt it. I saw it. I know what happened. Okay. This did not feel like the Alabama game back in 2018. Okay. That was a total beatdown. Never had a chance, ever had a chance. And I'm not saying Louisville had a chance the other night, but I thought the other night was at least that Louisville had a few, there were bright spots, and the guys didn't quit. Yeah. And again, nothing for me. I know for fans it has, but nothing for me has really changed. I said we would know a lot about this team after the first 12 days of the season, and I still say we're going to know a lot of things about this team in the first 12 days of the season. Are things trending the right way right now? No, but a blowout win over EKU and a win against Central Florida, a very good Central Florida team. And I think a lot, I know some people's not going to change their opinion, but I think a lot of people's will. What I was going to start to talk about. I've been around a lot of coaches. I've tried to learn and decipher over the course of my career, like what to believe, what numbers to look at, what data to look at. And so you take a little bit of everything. I love the eye test. I was there on the field. I saw what happened. I came back. I watched a replay. And I saw that would happen. Now, as far as like grades are concerned, the Pro Football Focus guys are really good at what they do. I don't buy 1,000% stock in them and what they say, because there are different things. Like, for instance, I saw Cole Bentley kind of get whooped up front a little bit, and he did not, while his overall grade wasn't terrible, his pass blocking grade was one of the highest on the team, which again, that's the intangible that you got to look at your eye. You've got to put a little bit of both on there. Okay. But I will say this, you mentioned Marshawn Ford. He had a couple of nice catches, but Marshawn Ford, in my opinion, after watching the film, had a very poor game. And as a matter of fact, he graded out under 50% for that game overall. His offensive efficiency is under 50%. He missed a block on the was a 3rd and short, and maybe the second third and short, maybe the second series of the game, I believe is what it was.
Mm-hmm.
He missed a block. He missed another one on a pass protection. Again, I just don't think, he was in there for 70 plays, and I just don't think he did kind of what he is capable of doing, in that game. On the flip side of it, Josh Johnson only played for 18 plays on the day, and I think we'll see his number increase in plays because he had the best percentage. He graded out the best of anybody on offense. He had the catches. He was in there on some run blocks and did a nice job on the run blocking. So I think we're going to see him go up. And again, offensively, they just have to find someone to step up. And I know we keep saying it, and unfortunately, we said it before the season, and it came to fruition.
Yeah. And there were some additional positives. I was really impressed with Michael Gonzalez, the true freshman offensive lineman, and heard a lot of positive things about him coming out of camp, and he kind of seemed to back that up in his first college outing. I did like the fact, as you mentioned a few moments ago, that the defense, or excuse me, the entire team didn't quit. And that's a positive. That's one glaring difference, obviously, between the Alabama game of a few years ago and this one is, that was kind of the start of, okay, forget this season, we're done. And before game one was even over. But this, I was impressed how they did keep fighting. And they did find some answers. Obviously, you have to figure defensively, Ole Miss didn't have the same fire that they did in the first half, going, getting a 26-0 halftime lead, but still that Louisville did make some adjustments. And the offense was able to find, some sort of rhythm, and Malik was able to connect with some receivers. So, it was the strangest thing at halftime when you see the starting quarterback leading you in passing with very little, with rushing, and then as well as receiving with a 9-yard reception. That was one of the weirdest stats I've seen in a long time. But moving forward, as you mentioned, they got Eastern Kentucky coming in this weekend. It's a game they've got to come out and do what they're supposed to do, which is win big. I mean, whenever you have an FCS opponent in your building, especially your home opener, just come out, smash them, let some guys get some additional, reps that should be beneficial going down the road. And then you've got I think, a game that's almost become a must win for this team with Central Florida coming in to Cardinal Stadium. So we'll continue to preview both of those games as they approach, but it's not just on the field stuff. There's also recruiting going on for football, for basketball. And it's a big period coming up in these next few days.
Yeah, no, it definitely is a huge period coming up over the course of the next few weeks.
Weeks.
Yeah. And this weekend, Louisville will have some unofficial visitors on campus for not only football for the game, but also for basketball. Caleb Glenn will be out there for basketball, along with Damon King and Aiden Evans, the two 2024 kids from around here. So we've got some other, like I said, some other things that will happen over the course of the next few weeks. We'll see some official visitors, some unofficial visitors. We've got a bunch of posts up now, and I think it's going to be, it's a period right now when you're going to see a lot of 2023 guys for both football and basketball, because the classes are so small in 2022 that you just don't want to bring in a ton of guys that you might not offer and that you might not take or whatever. So it'll be a lot. It'll be I'm excited to see kind of the Louisville Live in the atmosphere, and hopefully this Eastern Kentucky game can kind of get us, everybody started on a positive trend. It's a game that Louisville should win, and they should win easy. If they do, it's not going to tell us anything. Again, it's all going to be that Louisville Live. That Louisville Live weekend is going to be unbelievable to me, in my opinion. So
it is, and Louisville's got to beat Eastern Kentucky and look good doing it. But I guess a side note, it's I'm kind of looking forward to that there's actually gonna be recruits back on campus, for games and things. Have kind of missed that, so it's nice to see that process, getting built back up and become a part of the big part of the recruiting process as well. And of course, we'll have constant coverage of who's coming, what they thought of it, both football and basketball as it happens. So plenty of, hopefully good news ahead for Louisville. Hopefully the football team can start to right that ship, and got to do it quick because, as we both said, the UCF game, which is coming up in less than 2 weeks, is going to be very telling to where this Louisville football program probably will head the rest of the season.
Yeah. All right. It should be fun. It's going to be positive, and it's going to be better than this week has been. That's
my fingers are crossed, and I'm knocking on wood.
That's my gut feeling. So, all right, that's it for today. We'll be back later in the week. We'll have more looking forward and looking ahead. He's Michael McCammon. I'm Jody Demling. This has been the Cards Cast.
The college football season is off and running, and there's no other place that will keep you updated on all the latest news, give you winning picks for the weekend, and guide you through the twists and turns of the season like the Cover 3 podcast, part of the CBS Sports Podcast Network. Join me, Chip Patterson, along with Danny Cannell, Tom Fornelli, and Bud Elliott as we drop into your feed on Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays with our best bets in our locks episode, and late Saturday night with an instant reaction to all of the day's action, which you can also watch live on YouTube. No other podcast will have you locked down like Cover 3, so subscribe to the Cover 3 podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and wherever else podcasts are found.